Okay, maybe Larissa can't get in. We were having some Zoom problems with it freezing up earlier. I think Zoom is having a hard time today. But Marian's been with the Illinois Department of Human Rights for many years. She's recently retired, and in that she's had numerous awards and accolades for the work that she has performed in making sure that workplaces are fair and equitable for everyone. Since then, she has joined the Community Diversity Group. She's the current president of the Community Diversity Group and has made great strides in bringing those notions and those ideas to our community to the forefront, including the Community Diversity Rally that's taking place this weekend. So without further ado, I am going to have Marian take over. And thank you, Marian. Why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about what's happening this weekend? I know you'll talk about it at the end, but in case anyone has to hop off the call.
Sure. So we have our annual, well, first of all, can everybody hear me? Can you hear me okay? Okay. So thanks for that introduction. It's such a pleasure to be asked to share with you today some of my insights in enhancing diversity and inclusion in a small business environment. And of course, I'm very excited to share our 29th annual Race Unity Rally is coming up. Usually we have it at the Village Hall in LaGrange, but of course this year is a different year. So we're having it on Zoom. Same time though, it's the second Sunday in September at 3 p.m. And so anybody can register. The information how to get on is on our website, communitydiversity.org. And we'd love to have everybody. And in addition, we've had a summer read that was coordinated through my church and through my lots of organizations in the community. We're reading How to Be an Anti-Racist. And so Friday, we have the first of 3 book discussions on that book. And that's at 7 p.m. on Friday evening. So we'd love to have everybody join us for that. And even if you can't read the book between now and then, the author, Ibram X. Kendi, he has lots of author interviews that he's done. So you could watch one of those author interviews, spend an hour, and then be well prepared to join us at the book discussion on Friday or at one of the other ones that coming up. Yeah, great. Thanks for the opportunity to share that. Okay, well, I know your time is valuable, so I think I should just jump right in. And these are the things that we're covering today. As Nancy said, we want to talk about how diversity can increase our profits. What are some challenges and opportunities with regard to diversity and inclusion? And how can I get started making my business more diverse and inclusion? And as Nancy said, my background is at the state of Illinois Department of Human Rights. So I do have a lot of experience in discrimination issues around housing and employment. And in the community, I've been working with the community diversity group for over 25 years. So I do have a lot of interest in the topics of diversity and inclusion, but all of you have a lot more experience than I do when it comes to small business. So I know that a lot of you will have some ideas on how to make your businesses more diverse and inclusive that you would love to share with your fellow business owners here. So that would be great. All right, so let's just get right into it. So why should diversity and inclusion be a priority? So as Nancy was telling you, there are but first of all, let me back up and say that when we talk about diversity, we're really talking about so many different types of difference, not just race and gender, as was mentioned, but also disability, religion, age, sexual orientation, and many more areas of difference. At my organization, we even had training on personality differences and how to be more accepting of people's personality differences to help your teams work better. So there's all different kinds of differences that we can be more aware of and inclusive around. One of my other favorite trainings was generational differences, how to be more accepting of people who come from different generations, because with the work span that we have now, people are in the labor force, 40, 50 years. So you have people of multiple generations in the workforce. And they all bring a different mindset that we can learn from and learn to appreciate. And, we do all have different backgrounds. So we have different ideas on what diversity means to us personally. And as to why diversity is a benefit to your business, again, as Nancy was saying, research shows that businesses that are more diverse, especially in terms of race and gender, have better results than other companies in the same industry. And here's why. A diverse workforce can bring a wide array of experiences, skills, perspectives, and insights, and those lead to expanded creativity, better problem solving, better decision making. And if you have an inclusive work culture where every single person's unique contributions are recognized and respected, that can lead to greater employee engagement and hence higher retention rates, which again leads to better productivity because, as we know, when you have to rehire and retrain, that takes a lot of resources. A more motivated, efficient workforce can produce increased profitability and productivity. And since people are often attracted to diversity, the company reputation can be improved. Employees who have coworkers of various races, genders, and abilities are more likely to treat customers in those same groups with more respect. And we know that customers like coming to a location and seeing people who look like them. So diversity can then result in more loyal customers. And all of these things then can add up to better profitability for your business. So there's a few concepts that I want to cover that I think are related to this whole topic. One of those issues is privilege or inherent advantages. And the way that I like to think about this issue is, how have I been lucky? Looking at this through the lens of headwinds and tailwinds. Psychologists say that we notice headwinds or obstacles a lot more than we acknowledge the tailwinds or things that have helped us along. And even if you're running or biking, if there's a wind at your back, you don't even notice it until you turn around and start running or biking in the opposite direction. So it's the same thing with things that have helped us along the way. So to get a handle on the tailwinds in your life, ask yourself, where have I been lucky and how have I been helped to get to where I am today? But how does getting in touch with how you've been lucky help you in your business? I think the main reason is you may be more humble and empathic towards others who haven't had those same advantages. And this feeling of humility can help you to foster a more inclusive and welcoming culture among your workforce. You may learn to feel more compassionate when you make mistakes or when other people make mistakes. And in acknowledging the help that you've had to get to where you are, you may be moved to pay it forward by starting an internship program, for example, or taking new businesses or employees under your wing and sharing your expertise. So how does our background influence the way we perceive and interact with others? We all have unconscious bias based on the groups that we're a member of and those we perceive as different. And in fact, our brains look for shortcuts to quickly detect perceived threats in our environment. And this bias has been taught to us from day one. While some of these stereotypes may be true about a group as a whole, you certainly can't assume that a stereotype is true about any one person in the group. So how can you uncover those unconscious biases that you have that may be causing a problem in your business? You could go online, for example, take the Implicit association test that Harvard put out. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people have taken it. See what happens, see what it shows. Another way is to just read and be open. Listen to voices of people who are underrepresented, voices of people that we may not usually hear. Sign on to a Facebook group. For example, the Community Diversity Group Facebook page. We have lots and lots of articles that we're posting on a daily basis, all about different types of diversity and things that we can learn from other people, voices that we may not usually hear. So if you take the time to be honest with yourself and acknowledge your stereotypes, you may find that you will be able to prevent yourself from acting on them. And how does unconscious bias operate in a business environment? What I've come to understand about this is that we tend to give the benefit of the doubt to people who look like us or people who are in the dominant groups, males, wealthy people, white people. Think about that Starbucks case that was all over the news not too long ago. Black people came in to sit and wait for their friends. They were told, hey, we have a policy, you can't just sit here. And next thing you know, the police were called. But we understand that white people who did the same thing in that same shop were not questioned. And if you're wanting to put together an inclusive, welcoming workforce, any behavior that is allowed to perpetuate that disrespects people, something that questions someone's right to be there, makes fun of people, disregards a complaint, all of these behaviors can result in a culture that's not inclusive and welcoming to all. Even a small slight can send a signal to people that they are worth less than others. These microaggressions, which sometimes are called 1,000 cuts or death by 1,000 cuts, these are based on unconscious biases. When they happen in the workplace, they can interfere with the function of the team, make the job stressful, take energy away from productive work, and especially when they happen over and over again. So somebody like me, I might get a microaggression happening once a week, once a month, but other people this happens to daily, on a daily basis, so many times over and over. And the thing is, we've all been the givers and receivers of microaggressions. But once we start to realize what we're doing, and once we become more aware of our biases, we can stop ourselves from acting on these. And as I said, that's all to a good thing. All right, let's talk about some steps you can take right now to increase diversity and inclusion. We know that this is a particularly difficult time for small businesses. So as Nancy said, we're going to focus on changes that don't cost a lot of money. And the other thing is, you just want to start with one or two things at first so that you can see what's doable, have some success, and then build on that. So some of the steps you might want to consider: making a plan, increasing the respect that's shown to customers and employees, review your procedures and see if they're fair and inclusive to everyone, and try demonstrating some cultural awareness with your social media posts and branding. So let's talk about the first one: commit to a plan. So the first thing when you're making a commitment is setting some goals. What is this going to look like for your particular business? What is just one area that you want to focus on, or one goal that you want to tackle at first? Write it down, put it in your policies, mission, and vision. Talk to your staff about why you're doing it. It's important that everyone understand the why behind what you're doing. And you can stress that diversity will give your business a competitive advantage, as we've been talking about, besides being the right thing to do. Inevitably, things will happen. So when something happens that you're not proud of, acknowledge it. Use the situation as a learning opportunity to do better. For a diversity program to work, employees need to see that you're holding yourself and each other accountable. So what about how to show respect for employees and customers? By showing this attitude of inclusion and respect for the diversity that you already have in your business or organization, you boost your chances for success. So how do you do this? With regards to employees, of course, you're going to treat everyone with respect, listen to their ideas, acknowledge their contributions. You can cultivate an environment where people can bring their whole selves to work. In the pandemic, if your employees are working at home, you may already be doing this. All of a sudden, you're seeing their pets, what's on their walls, having discussions about the kids going back to school. So you have a perfect opportunity to have these kinds of conversations where you really get to know people a little bit better. And in a small business environment, you really do have an opportunity to be a family and get to know each person individually. So here are some other ideas. Encourage employee-led initiatives where your staff can share what they're passionate about. Maybe information about their culture, their ancestors. Maybe a hobby or a trip they've gone on. Maybe someone would like to start a recycling or a composting program. At my organization, we had employees who started a wellness initiative. People organized Spanish classes for the rest of us. We organized a sign language class. And it was great fun to share your passions with your coworkers, and you really felt like you could bring everything that you were and be passionate about to your work. So again, the point is to support what your employees are passionate about so that they feel they can bring their whole selves to work. This makes for a more engaged and loyal workforce. Again, as we've talked about, leading to higher retention rates and saving you the cost of hiring and training new staff. They say that employees treat customers the way that they're treated. So if you have a workplace culture of respect and dignity, you can expect that employees will treat customers with respect and dignity as well, and will treat every customer equally well. For the sake of fairness and transparency, another thing you can do is assess your rules and policies and post them in writing. Customers like to know that they're not being singled out when you're enforcing a policy or a rule. So if you really do have a firm policy that you have to enforce, if you post it, just kind of like what we're doing with the masks. People know they're not being singled out because you have signs posted all over the place. A mask is required. So people know and know what to expect. It's the same with any other rule. If you see it posted, then you know that you're not being singled out, and you see that that rule is being enforced for everyone, not just because of you, because of your skin color or gender or another reason. Whoops. Okay. So when it comes to reviewing your procedures for fairness and inclusivity, um, one thing you can look at is how you fill positions. When you post an opening, are you getting applications from a diverse candidate pool? If not, you could take a step back to find out what's happening. For example, are your qualifications that you're listing in your job ad, are those keeping people who are otherwise qualified from applying? A good example of that is a college degree. Is it really necessary that people have a college degree for that job? That's the kind of thing that can act as a barrier to keep people out who could otherwise do the job. Another thing, consider where you're advertising. Does the venue where you're listing your job have a diverse audience? Another thing is you could consider providing unconscious bias training for your staff, especially those who are involved in the hiring process. Set out your expectations to every person who interviews, that you do expect people to be hired without bias. If you can have multiple people involved in the hiring, that is a good thing too, because especially if you have a diverse pool of people who are hiring, then that tends to cancel out each other's biases. And once you have a successful diversity program, you want people to see that there's a place for people who look like them at your organization. And you can also consider posting your diversity policy on your website or on your Facebook page. And finally, consider whether your staff are aware how to get promoted and whether your pay and benefits policies promote fairness and transparency. Okay, now this last one, you're going to have to help me with this one because social media or social marketing, that's a whole other issue. And yes, I post a lot of stuff, but I know nothing about social media posts and branding. So you all can help me with this. What I did was find an article to read about it, and there is a lot of information you can find online. For example, I think I found a good one. It was on a Content Marketing Institute site, and it was called How to Do Diverse and Inclusive Content Marketing That Matters. So a few of the ideas that I found there seem to have some merit. Things like research your audience, use your diverse employees to help you connect to your customers. If you don't have diverse employees, you may need to create a diverse editorial board that you can run things by. I mean, we do hear in the news about like just errors that people made, putting things out there that really made no sense to their customers. And so if you have an editorial board, you can run things by. They might help you to think differently about that sort of thing and help you to avoid mistakes. There are also resources like a conscious style guide that cover numerous areas of diversity. And those can be very helpful to you and your staff to, again, learn about some of the areas that you may be less familiar with. One topic that can be overlooked is making sure that your online content is accessible to people who don't see or hear as well as the rest of us. So again, that's something to take note of, and you can find resources for that online. Some other ideas are to use photos of customers to show how they use your service, or photos of interns or employees who can talk about their experiences of working at your company. The whole thing seems to be a about building relationships with customers. And actually, I saw one thing that said 80-20. So 80% to educate and inform and entertain your customers, and 20% actually trying to sell them something. So take that for what it's worth. I thought a nice quote that they had in that article by the Salesforce company says, truly inclusive marketing can elevate the stories and voices of people that have been typically marginalized or underrepresented, deepen connections with customers, and even influence positive social change. So, all right, so with the key points that we've covered today, hopefully you now have a better understanding of how your organization can benefit from being more diverse, how to make your company culture more inclusive and welcoming, and some ideas for action steps to improve diversity at your company. Again, start small. You don't want to overwhelm yourself or your organization, but do make a commitment and educate everyone in the organization of the benefits and competitive advantage that can flow from a more diverse and welcoming culture. And the most important point of all is to recognize that a diverse and inclusive business culture starts with you at the top. You have to set an example for everyone else. You don't have to be perfect. Just start where you are, make a plan, try something, see how it's working, and build on your progress. It's a journey. And let's see, oh, and I did mention training where I used to work at the Illinois Department of Human Rights. They have free online training courses. I mentioned that one, Understanding Generational Differences. That one is a lot of fun. They also have a more general one called Appreciating Diversity, Intercultural Communication. So there's lots of opportunities out there, and these are all free as far as I know. You just sign on and register one at a time on their site. And that's their website right there, www.illinois.gov/IDHR. And some of the training courses that they have are on leadership too, so those are interesting. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Wow, Marian, that was fantastic. Larissa, I don't know if you're on the call. Did you want to hop in and say anything at this point? I think Larissa's having some trouble connecting, and so I apologize. Oh, are you able to come on?
Can you hear me?
Oh, it's kind of
Garbled.
funny. Garbled, yeah. Well, we'll keep trying. I have a couple of things. First of all, thank you for that presentation. It was so well done and so much food for thought. We really appreciate it. One of the things that came to my attention as it related to social media was some small businesses are sort of putting a face to their business and their brand by using their employees and using some of the passions and the things that they're excited about that, Marian, you were talking about in their social media posts. So it might be something about how their company is celebrating Black History Month, or how one of their employees is teaching a seminar as it relates to Pride Month. And so with a lot of the social media, it's coming from putting your employees front and center, talking about the things that they are passionate about, whether it's sign language or, aging well in place, things of that nature. So that might be something that other people have had experiences. Can any of the people on the call give an example of some that they've done or they've seen in social media that really kind of brings that to life? No? Okay. Another thing I wanted to talk about or mention was something that I saw. I was going to some of the shopping malls this weekend to see if they were busy, and how shopping malls are doing in relation to how Grange is doing as far as foot traffic. And I went to the Aurora Outlet Mall, which was packed, by the way, and just kind of walked around, didn't go in any of the stores, but I noticed that at least 50% of everyone there was either Hispanic or Black. And I looked at their marketing for the mall, the pictures that they had in the mall of shoppers, happy shoppers, buying things, doing things with kind of the slogan for the mall. And there were absolutely no minority faces in any of those pictures. And I thought it's really interesting because this mall had a disconnect between who their customer was and who their marketing message was targeting. So it certainly sort of brought that front and center to my mind as we go about doing things for the Grange Business Association. Is, I want to make sure that we're reflective of a diverse culture and the actual representing the community that we live in. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Do any of you have any examples of something that you've seen that either worked well or didn't work well in that regard? Kathy, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, that took a little bit of time.
Oh, there you go.
I think that we consciously try to make sure that any marketing that we're doing includes people of all different ages and all different shades, and because that's who we're really trying to reach. So, I think we really consciously do that, and it seems to work pretty good.
Anybody else have an example? And then two other points I wanted to bring up, just Marian, as you were talking. One is I was reading something as it relates to recruiting. A lot of companies now are doing basically blind resumes or blind recruiting, where they're taking the name, they're eliminating the name, the address, the education, and they're just listing the qualifications, or they're answering essay questions or whatever the application was. But they're kind of taking that first point of entry and eliminating it, so everyone is really and truly being looked at on the merit of what they've done, where they've worked, and their personality. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, that's a really great idea. I don't know how many companies are actually doing that, but that's another thing that really could work. I think we've all heard the story about this gentleman named Jose, and he sent out hundreds of resumes, didn't get one call back, and then he changed one letter on his resume and he got a lot more results. Guess what he changed? He took out the S in his name and he sent out his resume again as Joe, and he got lots of callbacks, or at least more than he had before, which was like 0. So yeah, that's, those unconscious biases, we can't help operating and filtering things through a lens like that. And so if you, at least at the early stages of the search process, have one person who's going through the pile of resumes and taking the names off and forwarding them that way, and the names and any other distinctive information that could reveal the age or the gender or the race of the person. And and it might be interesting to see what happens if you try that. Yeah.
And then another thing that kind of came to my attention, as far as, because all the businesses these are all small business, they're micro small, with maybe a handful of employees in their workforce. And so the question might be, I don't really have a diverse workforce because it's me and 4 other people. But another way that I think a business can become more diverse is who they're working with, who their contractors or their subcontractors are, who their vendors are. And so making a conscious effort to make sure that there's diversity represented in that as well. I had thought that Community Diversity Group was assembling, and Becky, I think you and I spoke about it, was assembling some type of listing of minority-owned businesses. Is that correct in our area?
We're working on it. Really, to be fair, we realized that we need to not only accumulate the list, but we need to contact the businesses and see what they want to be listed and how they want to be listed. And we just haven't had a chance to do all that at this point. So, but we are, that's one of the things where if anyone has capacity to help with that, we'd appreciate it. And otherwise, we're working on it, and you can certainly forward any minority-owned businesses that you know of to our email, and we'll make sure and include them when we're able to go through and find I contact them and finalize that. And we're hoping to at least post that on our website and possibly on some other websites as well, depending on people's willingness to put the information up there. So yeah, it's a great idea. We've got about 15 of them. There's a number of businesses that are minority owned, and we started a list, but we haven't had time to follow up yet. So great idea. If you want to reach out, like if you're looking for a particular area and you want to reach out to the our email, we could probably share with you, you know, one or two that we know of in your area.
Yes, was there another question? I didn't know who it was from.
It's Larissa. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, you can. Great. I also just wanted to say I've seen some businesses partner with minority-owned businesses on promotions and marketing, and I think that's a great way to reach out to your existing clients and just make them aware of other local businesses.
Oh, we just lost you, Larissa. I think we completely lost Larissa. I don't see her on the screen anymore, but yeah, that is a great idea, is just to kind of reach out with that. One thing I did want to point out for those of you who are members of the Grange Business Association, we do have a private Facebook group called LGBA Connections. It's where members can just talk to other members about resources, about benefits or amenities, vendors that they have, you know, are recommending, or questions that they might have. So if you have suggestions about how to become a more diverse business, or vendors that you would particularly recommend that represent that group, you know, please make sure that you're part of the group. You have to be in, you have to connect with it first, LGBA Connections. We'll approve it if you're a member, and but use that as kind of a behind the scenes platform to talk to one another. In addition, you can email any business through the LGBA website. Anyone can do it. At the top of the page, it'll say Explore LaGrange, and you drop down the business directory, and you can send an email to any business in LaGrange that is a member of our organization that way as well, if you're interested in making those connections. Let me see if Larissa came back on. Oh, there she is. Are you able to talk, Larissa?
I'm afraid to.
You're on. Did you just want to finish your thought? Yeah, no, it's not happening. We're just going to have to let Larissa go on this one.
Or Larissa, why don't you put it in the chat and I'll read it to the group?
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
You were talking about cross-promoting with other businesses. So maybe she's
What other comments do we have? What other insights? What other suggestions do people have? Ronald? You gotta unmute yourself.
I'm unmuted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, Marian, if some of the others, I've been in the educational systems for some time, and there are a couple of issues related to religious practices and clothing by some minorities. I think Muslims, for instance, have practices of wanting to have regular periods of where they leave for prayer, and I know that that's been causing some problems, some issues in a school district that I'm familiar with, where they have quite a large Muslim community, relatively recent actually, and but also clothing. You know, we know that different religions sometimes require a certain kind of clothing. Do you have any advice for businesses that want to encourage this kind of differences and appreciation, Marian?
Well, of course, the main thing is to be aware of what what you see out there, and actually, I did read one example of a fashion company that was using a Sikh turban like as part of a fashion statement, and they got all this pushback from the Sikh community saying, "Look, this is not like a fashion statement. This is part of our religious, garb, and you're using it. In other words, it's cultural appropriation. You're using it without understanding what it is or respecting what it's all about." And of course, just in terms of having people come into your location, it's important to respect everyone, and and not think that certain people are um, criminals or something because of the way they look or the clothing that they're wearing. And of course, if you do hire a person who needs to pray several times a day, then you do need to make space in the in the workplace for them to go and have a place to pray in private, whether it's just even a closet or someplace where they can go and pray in private. Yeah, so these issues definitely do come up in the workplace.
Kathy?
I think that goes back to a few things that Marian said that struck me is really the culture of the workplace. And if you are respecting everybody's differences there, it really does seep into what's happening when people come into your building. So, kind of what Marian just said was, if there's a practice that needs to be, that people need to take care of, then really to make that kind of culture, you have to be open to whatever those particular things are and make space for that to happen, which can be challenging and yet can make a huge difference in the cohesiveness of the work of your workforce as well as those, your customers.
Good point. Any other comments or thoughts? Okay, well, that puts us at 45 minutes. Look how right on target we are, Marian. Very good. I wanted to thank you today for being part of this presentation. It's so valuable. This really should be an ongoing presentation. So if you have thoughts, any of you have thoughts about things that you'd like to see the LGBA take on and provide further direction or further insights on, or speakers that you feel that we should be showcasing, please let us know. So Marian, I want to thank you so very much. It was really an excellent presentation. This has been recorded, and so we'll share it. I'm also interested in getting a little bit more information on the Harvard Implicit Association test, so I'll look up that link and share that with our members as well. But I really wanted to express our appreciation to having you all be with us today and sharing your insights. It was a really good thing. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll see you later.
Okay.